Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Lake Bluff Village Board of Trustees. It is November 9th, 2020. Could we possibly have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ankman.
Here.
Trustee Charlo.
Here.
Trustee Dewart.
Here.
Trustee Markey.
Here.
Trustee Meyer.
Here.
Trustee Toll.
Here.
And before we begin, I have to do the usual. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, this meeting will be held primarily virtually. As required by law, at least one representative from the village will be present at Village Hall, and the virtual meeting will be simulcast for members of the public who do not wish to view the virtual meeting from another location. The boardroom can accommodate 13 people, including members of the public body and village staff, while maintaining the 6 feet of social distance between individuals required by Executive Order 2020-43. Accordingly, the opportunity to view the virtual meeting in Village Hall is available on a first-come, first-served basis. Members of the public may view and participate in the meeting via online at lakebluff.org, virtual/virtual meeting, or to dial in at 312-626-6799. Or also it's going to be live streamed on lakebluff.org, channel 19. With that said, shall we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Okay, thank you. We have the consideration of the minutes of the October 26, 2020 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Markey.
Second.
Okay, are there any additions, comments regarding that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Okay, at this point in time, the board allows up to 15 minutes for people who may wish to speak on any item that is not on this evening's agenda. We have no one here at Village Hall. Glenn, do we have anybody in the chat room or whatever?
I'm not seeing anyone at this moment, Madam President. If you'd like to make a comment, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or you can follow the instructions to raise your hand if you're by phone. I think it's *9. If we don't see anyone, we can continue with our agenda.
Okay.
I'm still not seeing anyone, Madam President.
All right, excellent, thank you. And we have right now the village. I'm sorry, what?
Madam President, I apologize. There is one person that would like to speak.
Oh, all right, fine. Please do so.
If your phone number ends in 4353, you're able to speak. You will have to unmute yourself. I believe that'll be *9 to do so. Or *7, perhaps. I don't think we're having any success, Madam President. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, we will have, let's see, the village. All right, we have the village warrant report for October 22nd through November 9th, 2020. May I have a motion, please, to accept the warrant report?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you by Ms. Ankerman. And do I have a second, please? Second by Mr. Meyer. We have expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $721,343.02 for October 22nd to November 9th. Warrant report is dated here. The invoice shows checks with the status of open or paid, and all checks with the status of open are computer-generated checks for the board's final approval. Checks with the status of paid are manual checks processed as we know. Do we have any comments, questions by board members? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Charlo. Aye. Trustee Stewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey. Aye. Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
All right, at this point, we have the village administrator's report.
I have no report this evening, although, Glenn, can we try to have that caller try again one more time?
Sure. So again, if your number ends in 4353, you can try to speak, and you may try. I've got the manual open now. *6 to unmute yourself. Still not having any success, Mr. Irvin. Oh.
One more attempt, it looks like.
I believe so.
There we go.
Hi. This is Bill Powers from RTO Property. I just wanted to make sure that I was registered on the call for the fence permit application that we applied for.
Yep, Bill, your item's coming up later in the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
All right.
Madam President, he's for an item, one of the site plan approvals later on in the agenda.
Oh, all right, fine, thank you. I'm sorry, I had trouble understanding that. Okay, so village administrator's report, did I understand no report this evening, sir?
That is correct.
All right. Village attorney's report.
No report tonight, thank you.
All right. Village president's report, as we have had since March 18th, for every board meeting, I have asked for an extension with your approval of the declaration of emergency for the village of Lake Bluff due to the COVID-19 emergency. This would be extended until our next board meeting. Would I get a motion for that, please? Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Thank you. And do I have a second? I'm so my glasses. Second was, thank you, Mr. Charlo. Roll call, please.
Trustee Stewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey. Aye. Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We have acceptance of the correspondence that was delivered to the Village Board of Trustees in Informational Reports October 23rd and 30th of 2020. Do I have a motion to accept that correspondence?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Markey. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Markey. Aye. Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Stewart.
Aye.
All right. All righty, we have on number 11, which is a resolution estimating the amount of the annual aggregate 2020 property tax. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution for the extension of the property tax. I thank you, Mr. Charlo, and do I have a second?
So moved, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ankerman. All right, annually, the village is statutorily required to estimate funds to be raised from taxes on real property in the village prior to the adoption of the levy. This is an estimate and does not limit the board's ability to levy a different amount provided it is in compliance with the truth in taxation law and all applicable notice and hearing provisions. Finance Committee at their October 26 meeting reviewed the 2020 levy projections and recommended approval of a freeze in the amount of property tax dollars that the village extends. An aggregate property tax levy of $4,476,317 was recommended. The village share of the property tax levy of $3,461,807 is the same as the 2019 village portion of the property tax extension. The library board's levy request of $1,014,510 represents a 2.713 increase from the 2019 levy. The total village extension amount, including the library, is $4,476,317, which is $26,799 or 0.602% greater than the 2019 levy. This estimated levy is in compliance with the amount allowed under the Property Tax Limitation Act. Now, this is a first reading of this ordinance, and public hearing will be held on Monday, November 23rd. So this is simply the resolution. Are there any comments and questions from the board? All righty, hearing none, could we possibly have a roll call on this one?
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Thank you. Item number 12 is consideration of a resolution expanding and extended the Village of Lake Bluff's 2020 Local Business Grant Program in response to the COVID-19 pandemic to support recovery of the local business community. This is an adoption of this resolution, and I would like a motion, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Dewart. Do I have a second? And second by Mr. Meyer. The COVID-19 pandemic has had serious negative consequences for village businesses. Certain communities have assisted their local businesses during these unprecedented events to recover and reestablish a fiscally sustainable business community going forward. Pursuant to the village's homeroom powers and Section 8-1-2.5 of the Illinois Municipal Code, the village may expend funds for economic development purposes and make grants to commercial enterprises that are deemed necessary or desirable for the promotion of economic development within the village. To that end, the village board authorized a local business grant program in April of this year. At the October 26, 2020 meeting, the Finance Committee discussed the grant program and unanimously recommended the village board expand it to further assist small businesses located within the village of Lake Bluff who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and keep it open for submissions until the end of the first quarter of 2020. Specifically, the program expansion includes extending financial assistance for the cost of modified business operations related to COVID-19 with reimbursements of up to $1,000, with the $5,000 maximum reimbursement condition still in place. Business operation modifications include, but not limited to, the following: tents purchased or rent for outdoor dining, table and chairs purchased or rent for outdoor dining, personal protective equipment, PPE, and supplies, protective barriers, stanchions and fencing, and outdoor heaters. Are there any comments, questions from the board? Yes, sir. Mr. Charlot?
Yes, thank you. The one comment I have is, I think this is wonderful. I love it. My concern is we are coming a little bit late in the process. People, I see Novasi has secured, I think 7 or 8 space heaters, for example, and that's not the case for all the businesses in the village. The comment I would like to make is there any way, and it might be really hard to get that equipment, by the way, tents and space heaters, for example. Is there any way we, village, can assist as a group purchase, for example, or as a group, as a cooperative, basically, the businesses in the village to basically secure such equipment?
Good question. Drew, did you want to?
Yeah, I would say that the restaurateurs and the village and the Chamber of Commerce, we had been in conversation for months. And I think each of the restaurants had weighed their choices and examined a variety of ways to try to manage a extended COVID-19 mitigation situation, and each has chosen a path. As you commented, Innovasi has invested in heaters. I know John DeRossier at Innovasi had looked very hard at putting in tents around their front elevation. Ultimately decided that they didn't think the investment was worth it. Didn't think their customers would want to dine outside in that cold of a weather, and would make that choice and would tend to lean on takeout through the winter. The brewery has opted for a tent. I know other restaurateurs have considered other improvements, but you're right, Trustee Charlot, that it's difficult to come across many of these items at this point, and that was true of the end of the summer. The idea of finding tents, finding heaters, they had already been gobbled up. So I think to a certain degree, restaurants have chosen their path, and the village had, in our conversations or my conversations with them, had told them that there would be a potential opportunity that the village could help offset some of the risk with this by expanding its program. I didn't promise them that this would be coming, but as it turns out, it will be coming, and giving them a chance to apply for it after the fact. And they knew that could be a possibility, and I felt like they had mentioned to me that the idea that they knew they were taking on risk, and if they could hedge that a little bit by getting village funding for it even afterwards, that would be great and welcomed.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just had a very quick question. Can you just jog my memory again, Drew, about how we're marketing this to the businesses to make sure no one kind of gets lost in the shuffle or falls through the cracks, so that all the businesses are aware that this program is up and running and has been running for a while and will be going through March of 2021?
We'll do a direct mailing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We've done mostly electronic communication, but that's, something that always get lost in that. I mean, the good news is that we have a very robust group meeting with the chamber and with our restaurateurs, and they've been very good about communication. I don't think it'll get lost, but it won't hurt to send a paper copy too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good idea. Anyone else have questions, comments, concerns? All right, hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlotte.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
All right, item number 13, which is an ordinance amending Title I of the Municipal Code regarding comprehensive fee schedules, ambulance and emergency service fees. This is second reading approval of the ordinance. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ankerman, and do I have a second? And second by
Second,
Mr.
please.
Dewar. Thank you. The village last examined and modified ambulance fees in 2011 when the village was engaged in negotiations with the city of Lake Forest regarding our intergovernmental agreement for ambulance services. Ultimately, the village determined to, one, cap the village's subsidy of ambulance services and shift the burden on the individual service user rather than continue having the taxpayer foot the bill for the greater portion of the cost. Effective January 1st, 2011, everyone using ambulance services was to be billed at a rate of $1,335 per transport, with the village continuing to subsidize a portion of the bill from the general fund, which was about $533 per transport. Consistent with the financial arrangement with the city of Lake Forest, the village's fee structure was indifferent to the level of service provided, whether it was basic life support or advanced life support services. As we may be aware, the village recently resolved a dispute with the city of Lake Forest, and the new fee structure now resembles a time and materials approach, which includes new rates for transport, non-transport, that's when a person declines transport, lift assist, and canceled calls for service. After much discussion, the Finance Committee unanimously voted on October 7th to recommend the Village Board modify the fee schedule to reflect current service demands, better align with the recently adopted intergovernmental agreement structure, and attempt to offset related emergency service expenses. Because Lake Forest billing rates to the village are dynamic, with actual rates fluctuate depending on numerous factors, including total number of calls, the village will need to revisit this fee schedule following every annual reconciliation by the city of Lake Forest. The attached ordinance includes recommended service fees for schedule. For transport, that's the current rate as of $1,335. The proposed schedule is $1,732. For no transport, the current rate was $0. Now, no transport treatment services will be $250. Lift assist originally was no cost. Lift assist now will be $100. Mileage, which had been $0 under the previous current billing rate, will now, under the new one, be $7.27 per mile. Progressive billing approach similar to false alarms, $100 for the first call, $150 for the second call, and $300, therefore, for all other calls in a 12-month period. Are there any comments, questions regarding this? And this is second reading.
And that progressive billing approach relates to lift assist
Yes.
specifically, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Hearing none, may we have a roll call for this, please?
Trustee Inkman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
All right. Item number 14 is a public hearing to consider the advisability of issuing a request for proposal and awarding a franchise for the collection of waste from non-residential locations. This is a public hearing, so we don't need a motion on this one. But in the effort, just an explanation for this, in an effort to help control expenses for local businesses, increase recycling, and reduce greenhouse gases associated with waste collection from non-residential locations, the village began a multi-year study in 2015 regarding the possible establishment of a commercial waste and recycling collection service franchise. The statutorily prescribed commercial franchise study process permits the village to pursue a franchise only if fewer than 50% of businesses participate in recycling services. The study period has concluded, and only about 1 in 4 businesses are participating in recycling, so the village can proceed with evaluating and possibly awarding a franchise. The next step in the process is to hold at least one public hearing seeking comment on the advisability of issuing a request for proposal and awarding a franchise before issuing a request for proposal. To that end, staff has provided the required notice to the public and to haulers that such a hearing will occur at the November 9th Village Board meeting. Should the Village Board wish to proceed with issuing an RFP for a commercial franchise, staff recommends that the Board consider including the village's residential waste franchise in the same bid to create the option to award a single consolidated franchise. It's recommended that the village board conduct the public hearing and consider establishing an evaluation committee during the 2016 residential waste franchise, an evaluation committee consisting of then Finance Chair Steve Christensen, SEC Co-Chair Brian Renner, and Superintendent of Public Works Jake Turlock, and Village Administrator Drew Irvin met to review all of the proposals. All right, Drew, the method of doing this is we announce we're conducting a public hearing. Is that correct?
You have opened the public hearing, correct. And I have a very brief presentation I can give. It kind of highlights a little more information, if that's all right.
Yes, please do.
And I know that there's people on the call, Walter Willis from the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, as well as the Village's residential hauler today, Groot. Our representative, Josh Molnar, is also on the call. Maybe there's others as well. But Glenn, can you bring up the presentation, please? Go to the next slide. So this, as was mentioned earlier by Village President O'Hare, this started many years ago. This has its roots in the village's strategic plan. Really, the village has a great reputation in Lake County, in the state, in fact, as in terms of its environmental stewardship. If you recall, the village was the first community to have a ride-along program for its composting. And we've just been leaders in the county in this regard, and this is another way for the village to continue to pursue that. The sustainability plan also that calls for the village to go ahead and bring this to a conclusion and either tackle this with a commercial franchise or try to find other ways to increase recycling rates in the community. Again, knowing that's one of the major initiatives behind all of this is to increase recycling. So again, the village already has an exclusive franchise agreement with Groot that was entered into years ago, and we went out to bid again back in 2017, and the current contract will expire in the early spring of 2022, where we have a 2-year option we can exercise. Right now, we've got a window of time in which we can act to award a commercial franchise. The first step is tonight's public hearing, and go to the next slide. And looking back, if you all remember, we started back in 2015 this study that's a 3-year minimum process. We have to look and see if fewer than 50% of our commercial businesses are participating in recycling. That study found that they were well below that. It was closer. It was actually less than 30%. So that's why we're in front of you tonight to have this public hearing. That's the first thing to trigger this, and then we must issue an RFP within 120 days and then award a franchise within 210 days. And then there's a cooling off period, if you will, where the collection service couldn't begin for another 15 months if and when this is awarded. So again, that's all prescribed by the state law. So yeah, as I was talking about earlier, we really didn't do that well when we did our survey. We worked with our local businesses and tried to get information about participation. The haulers reported to us as part of this study, all the waste haulers in the area, and gave us this data. But like I said, we're sub 30%, and the threshold is 50%. So why would we do a franchise? The first goal is to really can we achieve, just like we do for our residents, savings with economies of scale? Can we reduce our costs for businesses? That's one way to do it. We can also, again, improve recycling, another major initiative. And then the other piece to this is, keep, if we can, trucks off our roadways. These heavier pieces of equipment ultimately do damage to our infrastructure. So the fewer that we have, the better. So focusing on the cost of reduction, the survey work looking at what other communities have found when they put this out and done a commercial franchise, usually they have done very well for businesses. And and Walter, you can jump in here if you would, please. But Glenn, can you bring him over to the call? But I know that many businesses and many towns, actually everybody has done better, and that's ideally our goal, but that's not always 100% the case. But using our data that we were able to collect by surveying our businesses, we found that 9 of the 13 would pay less, and only 4 would pay more. We won't know how that works out until the end, and if we can help get a better understanding of that once we put it out to bid. But again, this could reduce costs for our business community, which presumably would be helpful. Walter, did you make it over?
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good evening, Madam President and Village Trustees. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get as robust a response as we wanted, Drew, but the surveying that we did in your community versus what we've done in others, typically when we implement the franchises, more than 90% of the businesses are saving money, and some in the 30 to 40% range. So I think we're on the right track with this survey.
Great. Next slide, Glenn, please. And yeah, looking again, reducing emissions, pointing out that it's not a huge amount, but the idea if we can reduce wear and tear on a roadway, all the better. So that's really all I have for this, Madam President. The next steps that we're looking at is concluding the public hearing and see if there's any comment. Obviously, you can direct staff to issue an RFP. We would look to combine that with our residential. We would couple that as part of the RFP, but we would make it as a bid alternate that we could have it uncoupled, right, if it didn't benefit us. Again, the relationship we have, well, I should say this, the way the law was written, we could not just negotiate a commercial franchise with our current residential hauler. We have to put it out to bid, and it has to be awarded in this manner. That's the way the law was written. But we would couple it, but have the alternative to take it apart and only issue a separate commercial franchise if we wanted to. So we'll have that. You'll have that opportunity to make that choice, assuming that you do want to put it out.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions from trustees?
Drew, 2 questions about this. The first is, have we had any input from any of our businesses in town on this issue?
So when we went to, and I'll let Walter talk about this a little bit, but we went out and surveyed all the folks early on about this. We get certain businesses from time to time approach the village looking for the ability to have recycling if they don't have it in terms of with their landlord, or if they've maybe not been able to negotiate that with their hauler. We surveyed the folks and tried to get, I guess, a better idea. I think there was some concern by certain businesses that they didn't want the village involved one way or another, out being candid, but generally if there was they were like, I think the general idea was if we could try to find out if we can do better, why would we not try to find that out?
And the other question, Drew, is does a commercial operation have the opportunity to opt out of this if they think they have a better deal elsewhere? In other words, for example, perhaps Target, only speculating, might achieve greater economies of scale given the size of its business. Would Target, if it so chose, and again, just speculating, would it be able to opt out if that served its business purposes?
Ultimately, no, but Walter, you want to comment? We had this question earlier. You and I talked about this.
Yes, I mean, that's a key question, trustee. Typically, in the other 7 franchises we have in communities in Lake County, they do have an exemption process under 2 circumstances. If you have a national contract that cannot be broken, basically, then that would be an exemption. And if you have a unique service that, for whatever reason, the new franchise hauler cannot perform, but that typically doesn't happen. But what typically happens when the franchises do get implemented, and we have a lot of experience, most of your businesses will roll into the franchise. You might have a few exemptions, but not very many.
And Walter, with this, we talked about also, if somebody had some special rate, sometimes they can get a longer sunset on that, right?
Good point. What we've done in the other RFPs is we are cognizant that some businesses do have good rates, Most will, so those, what we will do in the RFP process is make it clear to the bidding haulers that if any business has a lower rate than what they bid, that we will freeze that business's rate at their current rate for 1 year, and then they have to roll into the franchise pricing. But experience has shown over 90% of businesses save about 30 to 40% of their annual costs, and they get increased services through the recycling.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, from a point of information, so we have some commercial haulers who are not offering recycling to their commercial clients. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say they're not offering necessarily, but the businesses have decided not to take the service. What happens with this franchise is, another aspect that we've done in these other communities is we've embedded in the RFP that each business will have the opportunity to take up to a 96-gallon cart, or in some of the franchises, 2 to 3 times that size, is embedded in their refuse rate, so their recycling is essentially free, even though we know it's not. But they get a lower rate plus recycling. That's been the experience in the 7 communities that we've done this. So businesses save money, plus they get recycling on top of it.
I would assume then that business would also have to have space for a separate container then as well. So that would be a potential barrier to entry.
Very astute observation. Space often does become an issue, but often they can downsize their garbage container size, fit the recycling into it. So, or they start sharing services, and that can happen under franchises. Businesses can do that when you work with the hauler on things like that. So there are ways around that, but that is an issue for sure.
Yeah, we have an item coming up on a waste container enclosure, and it kind of merges those two issues, and oftentimes businesses are don't quite have as much space available, and so that's something that maybe we can address as a board to creatively, and as part of the franchise agreement or otherwise.
And to Walter's point, what he's talking about, Mark, the idea of them having, maybe using the same footprint of an area in a.
For sure. No, I get it.
Increasing the frequency of collection,
Okay.
Different ways to skin the cat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had one quick question. When we talk about combining the residential and the commercial franchise, I understand there's a cost benefit on the commercial side. Would there be any cost benefit on the residential side as well?
Walter?
I mean, knowing the waste industry, whenever you have a franchise that has a larger annual value to it, which basically you'd be doubling the annual income associated with your franchise, it's much more lucrative. So it does get their attention more. And the good news is we do have a new company coming into Lake County with the waste management acquisition of Advanced Disposal, a company called NFL. So we hope to have new competition on this. And yeah, it's a larger franchise, but like Drew said, you're not beholden to that. If it's not that lucrative for you or that compelling, then you can break them. You can keep them separate. You have a lot of flexibility.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Do I need a motion or anything to close this hearing, or I can just announce it?
I think you could declare it closed, but I don't, President O'Hare, I don't know if there's others that want to comment, like Mr. Molnar or others.
All right.
There are 2 hands raised, yes.
Okay.
Josh? Josh, you should be there and able to speak now.
Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Madam President and Board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I just wanted to kind of check in. Obviously, it's always an honor to speak before you, and specifically on this, I just wanted to say a couple things and make sure. I think I heard Drew and maybe even Walter say the possibility of decoupling or separating those contracts. I would be in favor of that if I was giving a suggestion or making a suggestion to the board. I think there's a lot of benefit in keeping those two contracts separate. What we've seen in a lot of contracts that have them both under the same agreement is, over the years we see the commercial contracts start to get raised as the residential gets more aggressive. So I think the benefit to the village and the businesses to keep those separate. So that was just a comment and suggestion I had.
Thank you. Drew, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Looks like a Mr. Chris Coop as well.
Hello. Thank you all. I actually will be representing ownership for the dumpster enclosure that will be brought up a little bit later. So yeah, I guess this is somewhat applicable for the commercial buildings such as what I represent. This building in particular would be one of those spots where there's a very limited amount of space for what we have as far as to facilitate more waste removal in any way. Essentially what my project will have it'll add a means of access for removing trash, but there are situations like this where it's very difficult to get vendors on board to facilitate both trash removal and recycling, or if there's a tenant that's in control of their own contract, as both of these tenants are. Essentially we would be forcing, if they got to a point where we said you have to do recycling or something along those lines, it does kind of muddy the waters a little bit, whether it's for space purposes or for financial purposes. That was my only comment.
Chris, am I to understand these are like triple net leases where they're responsible for everything independent, and that's
correct?
Including, okay.
Correct. And they would have their own existing contract. So we basically say you have to remove everything. But that's kind of where we stop. As long as it's nice and clean and they dispose of their trash appropriately, that's kind of where we stop. And for example, I have two restaurants there. If they were to add, they would both need to add a recycling dumpster of some sort, and then in that case, we would have the trash removal vendor would have to kind of facilitate pulling one out with the vehicle and then manually pulling another one out. So it's as easy as that sometimes can sound. Sometimes the trash removal vendors are not the most ideal to deal with for something like that. So for a bigger property where there's a lot of space, it's usually pretty simple. For something small, like a business like the one that I represent here tonight, it would be a little bit more inconvenient, I guess.
But nothing precludes them from working together, both those restaurants working together to get the same hauler and even share the same facilities, correct?
Correct. So let's say realistically it would have to be something probably mandated by the city. Like you have to use waste management, or you have to use advanced disposal, with recycling as well. And then that vendor would, basically have the contract to do what's necessary, and they have to figure that out. So that I think it can be done. In this case, there's a pretty limited corral to be able to do something like that. But I'm also in one outlot parcel on a much bigger, asset. So I'm the little baby in a big parking lot.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew, just to clarify, there would be no mandate to recycle. There would be the option to, and most likely an option for food scrap diversion too. So it gives the businesses more opportunities if they can find a way to make it work. And so just to make sure that's clear.
Okay, so
Chris, I don't know if you know if are your restaurants doing that already, food scrap diversion?
I don't believe so. I'd have to confirm it. I'm not 100% certain. I basically just need to make sure they have everything nice and clean. We only have the 2 dumpsters there, one for Panera, which obviously gets a lot more volume than Tacos del Norte. But I'm sure they'd be interested, I would think, anything they can do to save their utility costs. So if recycling of some sort was able to benefit them, that, if it's going to be able to reduce their costs, I'm sure they'd be interested. It's just something where that more than likely they'd have to have the vendor that does both. So that vendor would pull out the 4-yard or 8-yard container, whatever that is, and then behind that area that's enclosed, pull out the 2-yard cardboard recycled container, or something along those lines would be my guess.
Okay. Does that end public comment?
That's all I had, Madam President.
Pardon? I'm sorry.
That's all I had, Madam
That's all you
President.
have.
I
Okay,
think
thank
the
you.
comment was made earlier that you can just close the public hearing.
All right, so the public hearing is now closed. And we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number...
Madam President, if just for clarity's sake, though, for direction from staff, is it that
I
you
think
wanna
the
do
direction from,
RFP?
I'm assuming from the board and everything else, that you would proceed with a proposal or to seek a RFP, and then set up an evaluation committee to assess that? Is that kind of the route that you wanted to go?
That's the direction we're looking for, if that's what you want to do.
I'm assuming, board, is that where we want to go with this?
I would agree.
Okay,
I'd agree as well.
okay,
I agree as well.
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay, does that clarification enough for you, Drew?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. We are now in item number 15, which is a resolution approving a site plan to install a fence at 702 to 706 Oak Avenue. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Toll. 702, 706 Oak Avenue is a 3-unit building in the R5 zoning district. Lake Bluff zoning ordinance requires a site plan review for all properties in the R5 zoning district. The property owner, Lake Bluff Flats LLC, and their management company, RTO Property LLC, are proposing to install, a 6-foot tall wood fence around the yard for the 706 Oak unit, which is in the northwest portion of the property. The proposed changes were reviewed by the Architectural Board of Review at their meeting on November 4th, and they voted 5-0 to recommend the Village Board approve the site plan. Are there any comments, questions, concerns from the board? All right, hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman. Aye.
We now are on item number 16, which is a resolution approving a site plan to install a dumpster enclosure at 303 to 305 South Waukegan Road. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and do I have a second? Second by Mr. Charlot. Panera and Tacos del Norte each occupy half of the building at 303, 305 South Waukegan Road, which is within the Carriageway Shopping Center site, but is under separate ownership from the rest of the shopping center. Panera and Tacos del Norte each have a dumpster near the loading dock area at the north east corner of the building. So there are 2 dumpsters where there was originally 1 when the building had only 1 tenant. 2 dumpsters cannot fit into the loading dock in a way that enables the garbage truck to pick them up, so they are both sticking out of the north end. Additionally, last fall, the landlord's management company removed the wood wall that used to screen the loading dock area from view. Both dumpsters and the loading dock area are now fully in view from the carriageway parking lot, in violation of the screening requirement of section 10-4-2H. The petitioner is proposing to correct this by installing a 6-foot wood fence with steel posts and removing the narrow landscape island to allow a gate to open to the east. This will allow 1 dumpster to be picked up through the gate on the east side and 1 to be picked up at the existing open den on the north. The proposed dumpster enclosure was reviewed by the Architectural Board of Review at their meeting on November 4th, and they voted 5-0 to recommend the Village Board approve the site plan as presented, with the provision that the fence may be either stained to match the building or left a natural wood color. All right, open to the board for any comments or questions.
I just have a quick clarification.
Go right ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I just have a quick clarification. Is the petitioner one and the same as the landlord management company that removed the wood wall?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Dort.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
We are now under item number 17, which is a resolution approving a license agreement for the use of village property for the construction of Bluff stabilization improvements. Do I have a motion for this?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Markey, and do I have a second? Second by Ms. Ankerman. Over the past several weeks, the village has been in discussions with Jason and Kimberly Beans, owner of the property located directly to the south of the Lily and Dells property, 718 Mountain Road, regarding their proposed bluff stabilization plans and the possible use of Lily and Dells for temporary construction access. At its October 7th, 2020 special meeting, the Village Board reviewed a bluff restoration design that ensures lake access via stone steps in 2 different areas and requires the Beans to dedicate a small area of land, approximately 400 square feet, to the village, and a Lily and Dells concept plan that maintains the Pleasure Drive, improving pedestrian access, achieves ravine slope stabilization, and it's designed to be stable through a 100-year-old storm event. Following considerable discussion, it was the consensus of the Village Board to move forward with the Beans consultants to refine these plans and finalize the license agreement. At this time, staff is prepared to present the final attached draft license agreement for Village Board's consideration. Drew, I'll turn this over to you.
You're muted, Drew.
Yep, thank you. So, thank you, Madam President. 2 things I wanted to update you on that are not in front of you. So, there was 2 changes, or I should say updates made, and they're non-substantive, but I just want to make sure I'm crystal clear in communicating them to you all. In Section 6, top of the page, 7 of the agreement, there was 1 word that was deleted to make sure it's in line for the word bluff, and that was just to match up with our intentions and the intentions of the Beans about what we expected from them with regards to maintaining the stairs. And the other item was a change from the village to clarify what we wanted to have done with regards to the Lily and Dell improvements. And this was something that has been talked to with the Beans' construction company with our consulting engineers from Hay and Associates, and I'll read this to you. This is going to be a refinement to Exhibit D. And again, if you remember, these are concept engineering drawings. We did not do detailed engineering drawings, one, because of time. The Beans are trying to make these improvements and restore their bluff and try to protect it in an expeditious way, and we didn't want to drag this out, but it's important to get some more clarity here, so bear with me, I'm going to read this to you. This is, again, language that we wanted to have added to Exhibit D, which is the Hay and Associates plan. And it would be a note, essentially, and what it would read is, unless the village approves otherwise or authorizes otherwise, where there's broken concrete fill is specified by the contractor, it shall be placed in, the material shall be placed in a way that conforms with the Illinois Department of Transportation specifications for porous granular embankment. Following the installation of the improvements to the Lake Michigan bluff, the porous granular embankment access road shall be reshaped to concentrate stormwater flow in the center of the proposed grade control structures. And remember, those are the beaver dams, if you will, and check dams. And an area on the south side of the PGE access road, the grade construction shall be maintained as a walking path with a minimum width of 36 inches or 3 feet. And all areas of this PGE shall be covered with natural stone that is keyed into the top layer of the PGE to avoid future erosion. And the natural stone used both for the grade control structures and the areas between the grade control structures shall be sized to withstand flows up to the 100-year storm as determined by the village. And the materials and the placement of the largely woody debris grade control structures must be approved and accepted by the village. So again, those are engineering details, but nonetheless, we wanted to have them in there so all expectations were managed. And that was really it. I mean, we worked hard on getting this agreement right. We worked with the Beans and their attorney late last week, all the way up until the end of the day on Friday. And I think it represents their goals and the village's goals. And I think Mr. Beans is on the line as well. I don't know if you can bring him over, Glenn. Jason, are you there? Or Kim?
Coming right up.
Thank you, Glenn. Jason?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, great. Yeah, no, everything was, the agreement was agreed to Friday, and then we did get that language today. I'm not an engineer, and we didn't run it by John, but it sounds a lot like what we agreed to. So I think we're at the finish line. I shot it to our contractor to confirm that language made sense, and our attorney, but nothing jumped out to me.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for anybody?
So I take it then, Drew, that the underlayment is an Illinois Department of Transportation. I would have always called it a particle size, but they're not like particles. They're rubble. The size of the rubble here is going to be coordinated in such a way that the IDOT material that's the subsurface mates with the material that's left on top, such that the material that's on top can nest into the construction rubble in order to make this an intact double layer of material, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so that it can withstand the 100-year storm event.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
You get it. Yep.
That makes all kinds of sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for everybody.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a question about the concerns of neighbors. Have we heard any new information or new concerns since the initial meeting with the neighbors and the opportunity to kind of lay out what the agreement might look like?
I have not. The only thing I've heard, the original concerns I heard was the amount of vegetation being removed, and there's a plan to address that. I heard concerns about structural concerns to neighboring properties. Those had been resolved. there was a concern by the Bucios were concerned with the village's improvements, the stairs, and how those were pointed towards their property. Mr. Bucio asked the village to talk to him as those were being set and laid to see if there was something that I'm not certain what could be changed at this point, or at least that could be done anything differently. I said I would reach out to him when that work was being done, but I didn't know what else we could do. Jason, I don't know if you heard any other concerns from your neighbors. I have not.
Well, we had our contractor John met with a couple of the neighbors about noise who were right at the point where the trucks were coming down. So as far as I heard, that went well and eased their concerns. I haven't heard anything else other than what you mentioned.
Yeah. You know, I fully expect there'll be a lot more concerns when the trucks start rolling up, right? That's when we're going to have people start getting worried and upset, is when things are start moving.
Thank you.
Okay.
Drew, are we comfortable with the wear and tear on the streets? I know that came up at one point about all those trucks coming up and down the streets. Are we feeling fairly comfortable about that?
I would say, I think Jeff Hansen, the village engineer, has talked about this. Jeff, would you go ahead and repeat your comments that we've had, the conversations we've had about this particular concern?
There's a concern where trucks are stopping and backing, that asphalt could get damaged. A lot of it is a little bit by chance, as far as, is the base layer of the street wet and saturated when the work's going on, so it kind of depends a little bit on the weather, if the asphalt might push it a little bit. But generally, it shouldn't be too severe. We have a deposit to repair any damaged street areas that might happen, and I feel like the deposit's large enough to cover what could happen on the streets. It's more likely that, especially if trucks are going up east-north, they'll get a little off the pavement. We might have some shoulder restoration or some grass to replant, especially if there's parked cars on the street. But the edge of the asphalt and that part just outside of it is the area I'd worry the most about. Again, I think the deposit is sufficient to cover any potential damage.
Great, thank you.
A question for the Beans. What would be the proposed start date for this and completion period? You're smiling. I understand.
If we get weather like this, it'll be a lot faster than expected. The second we get to go, I'll talk to the contractor. I haven't asked him when. So as soon as possible. We want to take advantage of as much good weather as we can to get as much stone down there as we possibly can before the winter hits.
And the elapsed time for the project, I know your contractor addressed this early up, but I forgot the details.
If I remember correctly, and again, I'm doing this off the memory, was he expected driving trucks to take about 3 weeks of getting the stone down there. It would go in phases, spurts and fits, he said. So there'd be periods of hauling stone, and in the morning, and then they go back up, and then they do it in the night. So it'd be sets of truck for a couple weeks, and then there'd be equipment down there stacking it, and then the trucks wouldn't be coming. And then when the gravel came, there'd be another set of trucks. So I believe what they'll do, and this is based on memories, they're going to have probably a crane that'll stay down there and move this stuff around. But the neighbors won't be as bothered during that period. It's when they're hauling the rocks down. He's going to try to do that in a condensed period of time. I don't know how it depends on weather and everything else. But and then doing it in the lake will very much depend on weather. But the actual first phase, I thought was through. Do you remember? I thought it was like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty rapid. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. We have a first and a second. Consideration of the resolution. All righty. Roll call, please.
Trustee Murphy.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Okay. Get that started now. All right, good. Okay, trustees report. Trustees this evening?
Point of clarification, does that action require a second reading?
No, it's a resolution approving the
Right,
agreement,
yeah.
not an ordinance.
Okay, anything else?
Sorry, thank you.
Good
That's
question.
all right. Any trustees that wish to expound this evening? All righty, we do not have executive session this evening, so I would be happy if anyone likes to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Ankerman and second by Mr. Dewart. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Anklin.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
We are hereby adjourned. Thank you all very much and have a safe rest of the week.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Aye.